Welcome back to the Corhazi Outlook, a Grand Archive TCG podcast centered around tournament results and competitive metagame analysis.
We are here to provide a glimpse into what's being played at larger tournaments and help you prepare for your next big event. This is episode 30. I am Ken, also known as Chromatic. With me, as always, is Aubrey, also known as Jim the Eternal. And today, it's time to talk about CNATs.
It sure is.
Yeah.
This is sort of the capstone of the national season.
The last big event for the 2026 national season, yes. So
the last big event before Worlds, right?
Yeah, I think now it's just left for the Worlds competitors to sort of cook up what they're going to bring after the aftermath of this tournament.
Which pick up the pieces and see what you can assemble.
There was a lot that happened. So we're going to break it all down for you. We're going to talk about who was there, what they played, what did good, what didn't do good, and quite a few surprises that we expected but we didn't expect.
The problem with expecting surprises is when you get surprised, you don't expect it.
Yes, and at that point it gets a little scary. So we'll talk about all of our fears made manifest by the end of this episode. But before we talk about that, let's talk about something more pleasant and ask, hey Jim, what have you been up to lately?
Man, I have been working on putting together my reel for Worlds.
I got the chance to listen to it. Pretty exciting.
Thank you.
Good stuff.
Yeah. So managed to piece together a couple of clips, some stuff that I'm pretty happy with.
Yeah.
And honestly enjoyed kind of going through some of my previous casts and seeing kind of what I was about, what I was talking about. Seeing, so quick, I'm going to do some shout outs here. Shout outs to Neatful. We have some amazing chemistry on camera.
Oh, yeah.
I really appreciated casting alongside Neatful. I think I spent at least one full TCG weekly, just me and him all 4 rounds. And that was a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
Also, shout outs to Mark from Solar Games.
Oh, yeah.
When we did the regionals together.
You guys have great chemistry.
It was a really good cast. And going back through it, kind of listening to it and seeing kind of where we were at and what direction the cast took, I think we did a really good job.
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, I'm excited for all the potential stuff there. Myself on the other end, so we had a store champs. Our last big store champ of our region. And it went surprisingly pretty well. So I actually I managed to get second place in a store champs, going 4-1, piloting Water, Exia, Jin. TLDR, I expected a lot of Windcrux and a lot of Ablation, and I was just like, what does well into this? And it was like, it's probably Water Jin. And I was like, all right, sure. I'll learn Water Jin. Water Jin's pretty cool. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I like it.
I brought Windcrux to that event. And I crashed the heck out.
No!
That deck was worse than useless in my hands.
That's unfortunate. Right? Yes, I've definitely been there. I think the first couple of runs on Windcrux can be a little tough. I think the reps make it better, for sure. It's okay. We managed to preserve the honor of the podcast. So I got good matchups. I got a bit lucky as well. So I can't complain with the results.
All right. We'll take it.
We'll take it. But yeah, definitely ignited a fire within me. So I am excited to sort of continue playing things out and sort of honing my craft in whatever decks are relevant up until the season rotates and we see what happens at and after Worlds.
You know, this would be such a great segue if Fire Lorraine was doing anything in the competitive scene.
It's true.
But we can't talk about honing any crafts.
We cannot
Nor can we talk about a fire being lit.
We have to temper our expectations so that we don't steal the momentum that is rending our hearts in twain.
I'm so glad I set you up for this.
Anyway, let's talk about CNATs. Let's talk about CNATs.
So going into CNATs, before we really kind of start the stats discussion, going into CNATs, we had some expectations, I would say.
Yes, we definitely did.
About what the meta is going to look like, both from a global perspective and from, the usual SEA regional perspective.
Yes.
And safe to say that the global meta definitely had more of an impact than the regional SEA meta.
I definitely think so.
I think we saw kind of a lot of the same decks, but more of them.
I think a lot of it is like hyper focusing on the decks that really excel and seeing folks sort of lock into whatever lane they felt the most comfortable in and sort of taking that as far as it could go.
So based on what you've seen of SEA Nats so far, do you think going in that you had the right expectations for the event?
I think for the most part, yes.
Okay.
I think there were a lot of decks that we expect, like Etherwing, obviously, very popular, very successful. Was going to see a ton of that. Wind Crux is a deck that I know that folks have been playing a lot of, and while it hadn't actually really topped or made a top cut at any of the other events, I figured like it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, definitely one of those that was growing in mind share, if not actual like day 2 market share yet.
Yeah. It was also holding out for us to see something completely new and just sweep the meta by storm. And
unfortunately it did.
We got it. No shade on anything. I was expecting a deck to come out of nowhere. This was not the deck I expected to come out of nowhere. No shade towards the deck or the person who piloted it, because it was a very well-deserved victory. And a lot of folks actually were very excited to see this.
Yeah, incredible performance.
But we'll get there.
Yeah. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Exactly. So let's talk about what the overall field looked like. This seems like a good place to start. So first off, there's the element breakdown. And this is, again, we've like really flattened out at this point.
Yes, we have.
So 31% of the field on fire, 34% of the field on water, and 35% of the field on wind.
Yep, that's about what we expect, I think.
I am surprised to see this much fire representation in day 1.
Yeah. 25%. Oh, wait,
31%.
Hold on. I'm looking at the wrong numbers.
Because, if we look at the events leading up to here, we didn't get above 30% of fire until you start looking at like NA Nats, OCE, and EU. It was all wind, all water.
Yes. Spoilers. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I would have expected probably around 25% for sort of the day 1 of an event like this.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were looking. So above 30%, I think, is much more even for all of the elements.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to see the meta balance out in that particular way.
I always appreciate seeing element diversity, and I think we're doing a pretty good job here in terms of the overall representation, especially with 417 people at this event. That's a huge pool.
I will say a lot of this fire representation comes from Oblation.
Yeah.
Which was kind of suppressed in previous events.
Yeah.
And I think based on Limelight's results, maybe got a little bit more action in this particular event.
Yeah. I think if there's any fire deck that's going to really excel, it looks like Oblation is sort of the one to pick. And that's sort of how the results have shaped out over the last few events. And it definitely seems like it's the case here too.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the hard numbers here.
Yeah.
So we had 387 total decks in the event.
Oh my.
Yeah, this is a big event, which means we have stats, and the stats are maybe relevant.
I love stats.
15% of the field on Etherwing.
Yeah.
So this is the Etherwing that we would have expected. This is Water Etherwing. This is the Strides playing Aqua Mirage Whisper kind of default Diana deck that we all expect at this point.
The classic big sniper. Yeah.
And this is the deck with the most share of the meta, which also what we've expected. This is kind of the same thing that we've seen in the previous couple of events. This is no surprise to anybody who has been trying to play Standard.
Yes, of course.
In second place, though, is Oblation. And this is a bit of a surprise.
That is a surprise. I didn't realize the Oblation numbers were this high.
Yeah. I don't know if this is an SEA thing or if this is like a global response to kind of what OCE looked like, but this is a lot of Oblation. Definitely more than I would have given credence for.
I mean, this is kind of the similar, like, I don't want to say it's like a Merlin-esque archetype, but it's kind of like a level 3 fire deck. Maybe this is sort of the level 3 fire deck of choice. I don't really know. I'm not an expert on the SEA meta. I would have to ask some more local participants.
There definitely are a lot of people that want to play level 3 fire.
Yeah.
And if you're going to, this is the way to do it.
I think this is the one, yeah.
This is kind of the most powerful way to do it. Either the Oblation list or just the general kind of coup list.
Yeah.
But being able to put Blackjack into Oblation the way that Limelight did, I think gives this list a little bit more punch.
Yeah.
And gives it a lot of the same kind of attack patterns that the more controlling coup list has.
Oh yeah, definitely. Sometimes you can just slam them for big damage. That works.
So this is like, in retrospect, I can kind of explain what led to this, even if, kind of being on the spot, I wouldn't have been like, oh yeah, second most popular deck Oblation.
Yeah.
But I can see why it happened. Next on the list, we have Warrior Crux, and the lion's share of this is Wind.
Yeah.
58 of these decks are Wind, and 3 of these decks are Fire.
I mean, this is no surprise. This deck has just been only getting more and more popular as time has gone on.
Right,
There's
absolutely.
Just so many crazy things you can do now off the back of like Ghost of Pendragon, Ayla, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, people really waking up to the kind of power of wind utility in these Crux lists.
Yep.
And then that Crux top end, very strong. Yeah. Seeing Spirit Blade Retribution do the kind of work that it's been doing.
An actual finisher.
Very good list.
Fantastic.
I do want to call out, there are 3 Fire Crux decks.
Yes.
Which is honestly a baffling number to me, especially considering one of them made day 2.
Yeah, I mean that's a wild list we'll talk about.
Right. Well, I mean, if you look at the we're gonna tangent a little bit here.
Yeah.
Of the 3 Fire Crux lists, the one that made day 2 is the one person with an elo over 1400 and practice with the deck.
Yep.
If you look at if you look at everybody else, there's one other person who had a decent performance on day 1, and they came in with this being the first time they were on Firecrux at a major event.
Oh, okay.
And the other person was a sub 1200 elo player.
Oops.
So it's, I'm sure they tried. I'm sure they did well for kind of how much practice and how much experience they had.
Yeah.
But you're not going to day 2 without seeing some kind of results in previous events.
But that's
you're
okay.
Just not going to come in and do that on your own.
Just keep at it.
Yep.
Just keep at it.
Absolutely. We'll talk about the rest of the events. I'm going to come back to this, but I do want to talk about how a lot of decks, the long tail that we're used to talking about, are seeing success.
Yep.
As long as you have that practice, you have that correct expectation set for the meta. Anyway.
Yes.
After Warrior Crux, we have 49 Seiryu decks, 11.8% of the meta.
Yep. This one's definitely going down in market share, but I think it's still a pretty popular one. Obviously, I think the decks are sort of favoring more towards the turbo side of things over the influence side of things. Obviously, you still have quite a bit of influence gathering in this deck in general, but a lot of them are still really upping their counts on like Beseech the Winds, Dungeon Guys, stuff like that. Just ways to get up there. Right. And then just flaunt a big advanced element package and do cool things.
Yeah, I do think it is important to highlight the variance that Seiryu as an umbrella label kind of represents.
Yes.
Right? Because there are so many different ways to build Seiryu. There's so many different ways to focus the deck. There is the kind of turbo Seiryu that we've seen. Yep. There's this sort of more ally-centric Seiryu. There's the influence bully Seiryu that TM32 has made popular.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things that you can do with this deck that, you kind of have to dig a little bit deeper into the list in order to see what people are actually doing.
It's true. There's even a raccoon Seiryu out there.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, which we'll talk about.
Ooh, okay, cool. I'm interested in seeing that.
Oh, yeah.
So the other specific deck that I want to talk about here in day 1 is Whirlpool Mill as an archetype.
This has a few different variants now.
And I want to call out that this Whirlpool Mill representation in Fractal of Insight is 2 different decks. This is not one deck.
Right.
This is Whirlpool. This is Water Exia Jin.
Yep.
As well as Umbra Mill Alice.
Yes.
So these are decks that obviously have Dynastic Whirlpool as their primary win condition.
Yep.
Jin, usually runs some amount of Relentless Outburst, some amount of Enrage, some amount of runs the Shuangji. So there's ways to kill even without just milling people out.
Yep.
But the focus is definitely the sort of control recovery into Dynastic Whirlpool and then just wait your opponent out.
Yep. The Alice version of this is all in on triggering that mill win con. It is not threatening any damage at all. So it is just focused on staying alive and being able to combo off.
Yeah.
So it's a very different style of deck. A much more patient man style of deck, really. So
I'm bringing this up to illustrate that Whirlpool Mill, not a single archetype, multiple archetypes here, all of which to say that beneath Seiryu, no deck is more than 5%.
Yes. That's a big clump at the top.
It's a big clump at the top. So this is the kind of meta that I am used to seeing in older metas.
Yeah.
As well as in other card games. You see this a lot. There's like 3, 4, maybe 5 decks that most people are bringing. And there's people will bring whatever, but there's a certain element of these are the quote unquote good decks in the meta that most people are bringing. And again, I do want to call out, you do not need to bring one of these decks to be successful.
It's true.
But you do need to be prepared for these decks to be successful.
Yeah. So for me, I think it's definitely a much more homogenous meta, which is a little less exciting to talk about, but I think for a tournament preparation standpoint,
much easier.
It's much easier to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think the long tail of decks, right? There's tons of other decks
so
that
many
brought. So we're not going to go through all of them by name, but there's various elements of aggro, there's various elements of control. People brought Wake Up, people brought Razor Gale, people brought Genbu. There was some Fire Aetherwing here. There were a couple of Slimes and Fracta. Long list of decks that have been good, even may still be good, but are just not as popular in the meta.
Yeah. Rogue decks.
The whole many of them.
The whole lot of
absolutely.
them. Whole lot.
The other thing to call out is roughly 60% of the meta can be accounted for by these 4 most popular decks.
That's a lot.
So these are definitely the things that you need to watch out for, or did need to watch out for as of this meta. When going into the event. And I just want to call that out. There's like this sort of conglomeration of people agreeing that these are the decks that they think are good.
Definitely.
So yeah, that's day 1. This is what we saw on day 1.
Yeah. Now, how does this shake up going into day 2?
So day 2, we see kind of the same shift that we've been seeing from day 1 to day 2 in all of these nationals.
Right.
Which is fire drops down a bit.
Yep.
Water stays pretty much the same. And wind steals that extra market share.
Yeah.
So 25% of day 2 on fire. 33% of day 2 on water. 42% of day 2 on wind.
This is kind of more what I'm expecting. Obviously, I think the water number might be a little lower than what I expect, but like the wind number makes a lot of sense.
And we see kind of the expected conversion rates for these bigger decks. I think Seiryu converted a little bit better than expected. Wind, Crux, and Oblation converted maybe slightly not quite as good as we expected. But overall, seeing, Water, Aetherwing, Seiryu, Windcrux, and Oblation as the 4 most popular decks in day 2, or 4 most common decks in day 2, does not surprise me, given that they were the 4 most common decks in day 1 as well.
Okay.
So this makes a lot of sense. So behind Windcrux, we start seeing, the long tail of decks coming in. We have 5 Genbu decks here. We have 4 Suzaku decks, which is surprising. I didn't think Suzaku was real.
I hope Suzaku continues to be real.
Well, we're going to need someone.
We need someone, something, somewhere.
But yeah, Suzaku had like a decent presence here. We saw 3 Wind Astra decks. We saw 3 Wake Up decks. So it's definitely some other flavors of aggro kind of making their way into day 2 in a way that they really haven't in any of the previous Nats.
Yeah.
Like I want to call that out specifically. Water Aetherwing has been the aggro deck of choice.
Yes.
So we saw maybe like 1 aggro Xander deck or something, which we also saw at this day 2.
Yeah, we did see a little bit of that.
We haven't seen Suzaku for ages. There's maybe been a Wake Up deck that's been around. Kind of looking through this list, there was like a Fire Aetherwing made it to this kind of top table. So there's been more aggro making it to day 2. And this might also be like an SEA regional thing.
I mean, we definitely had a little bit. I mean, I feel like Suzaku definitely can either hit the top or get close to the top. I think we saw that at NA Nats and Ascent Las Vegas. But it still feels kind of rare. And it's always like a little bit short,
I think Suzaku is probably the either like top 2, if not the best aggro deck behind Water Aetherwing.
Yeah, I think that's the right case.
If we're going to see other aggro decks, I'm not surprised that it's Suzaku.
Yeah.
But given what we've seen so far in this Nats season, I am surprised that there's any other aggro decks besides Water Aetherwing.
This much Suzaku.
Yeah,
for
exactly,
sure. Absolutely.
But and we see 2 of each on Razor Gale, Water Allies, and Fire Luxem.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
That's still a good one.
Yeah. And, with an event this size, we're expecting a bunch of rogue decks to make it to the top. So, we are seeing a bunch of rogue decks make it to the top.
Lots of rogue decks in the top.
I guess we have to put Whirlpool Alice on this list.
We definitely had to put Whirlpool Alice on this list.
But then 1 Fire Aetherwing Diana, 1 Fire Crux Lorraine, 1 Fire Slimes, 1 Fractals, 1 Shadow Strike.
Oh yes.
Haven't seen Tristan in a hot minute.
That's a local hero.
It's interesting to see people who previously had been like, oh, I can't play what I usually play. I'm going to have to play Water Aetherwing. And now we're seeing them kind of shift back.
Yeah.
Like even before the Strides ban, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing them kind of, okay, I have taken the temperature of this meta. I don't feel like I have to play what's popular. I feel like I am prepared enough to play what I like.
Yep.
And, they're doing well. They're there.
I mean, when in doubt, play something obviously.
Yeah. And last on this list, last but not least, 1 aggro Xander deck.
We got one.
Love
to see it.
And we're not seeing anything particularly crazy in terms of conversion rates.
Right.
I think Seiryu, like I was mentioning before, Seiryu and Diana, Water Diana, kind of slightly overconverted, and Suzaku definitely overconverted. But past that, we're seeing kind of within variance of what we were expecting.
That does seem right.
And it's again for decks that were like 7 ofs, 8 ofs. It's a little hard to say. 3 of them converted. That means they overperformed. Like that's noise.
I will say on the topic of road decks, I have to pour it out for two competitors that I really wanted to see make this cut, which were EOE, Paladin Windrai, one of the Rai players that I follow a lot, and Megalobana on Water Astro Diana. I really hoped he would make it this time.
Nope.
It's okay. He'll have his chances.
I firmly believe that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in addition to the kind of mostly expected conversion rates, none of the win rates are weird or over the top either.
It seems about right, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty even. I think the only deck, I see 2 decks that made above 55% win rate. And those 2 decks are Water Allies and Whirlpool Alice.
Yeah, the Whirlpool Allies one makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, considering the number of games that got played by one person who took, one loss the entire tournament?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
You called it. Water Allies also kind of makes sense because it's meant to be a meta check to Water Aetherwing. And I think when you have the majority of the tournament on Water Aetherwing, that's pretty good. Yeah,
but everything else kind of within the usual variance of, you know, things going between 45%, 55%. Like this is what you would expect to see for win rates for most decks. There's no 60% here.
Yeah.
There's no 75%.
There's no just absolute just demolishing deck out there.
Yeah. There is a dumpster though. We see poor Fire Lorraine.
Yeah.
40.7% win rate.
It's okay. She'll get her day. She'll get her day.
Which is I mean, you just need to practice, right? You just need to know what you're doing.
You just gotta, you'll figure it out.
I do want to say that this isn't a sign that you can't bring a rogue deck.
Exactly.
Right? This is like the 8th time I'm saying it this podcast, and there's going to be 8 more. This does not mean that you cannot bring the deck you love.
Yes.
It just means that you need to be prepared for what's going to be there.
We have someone who brought the deck that they loved and did phenomenal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, this is the day 2 numbers.
Yeah.
So we should talk a little bit about the Archetype Breakdown.
Yes, very important.
This is still showing the same kind of 3 peaks design that we have been seeing this entire season.
Aggro, mid-range, control.
Which is honestly fine. Yeah. If all of that is mostly in parity, that feels pretty good for a meta.
I think so.
Even if they are all one deck.
I think so. I'm sorry.
But yeah.
Aggro, mid-range, combo. That's a little different. We might like a little bit more control. A little bit more control. But the control numbers here aren't bad.
Grand Archive has never really lent itself towards sort of the classical control model.
It's true.
And there are combo decks with more control elements. There are mid-range decks with more control elements. Yeah. There are more late-game mid-range decks. They're still kind of mid-rangey, though.
I do think we're starting to see a bit more of control decks with combo elements.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that's definitely going to be something we'll be talking about more and more as time goes on.
But yeah, the aggro is, of course, primarily Diana.
Yep.
There is some Suzaku here, and there is a Agrozander, Fire Agrozander.
Yeah.
So that's cool to see. As far as tempo goes, there are 2 Water Allies decks in the field.
Holding it down.
CL, Water Allies, as made popular by Caben very recently.
Yep.
The things he does to our meta, that man.
He does, in fact, do things.
For mid-range, we have Windcrux.
Yep.
And we have Oblation. 2 very mid-rangey decks. Oblation more on the aggressive side. Windcrux a little bit more on the controlling side. This is all sort of the firm kind of mid-range pile that we expect. As far as control goes, there's a variety of different elements here. So we've made this up with Genbu, Fire Luxem, Wind Astra, and our token Whirlpool Mill deck.
Yep.
Alice.
That sounds right.
And these are the decks that really want to kind of take a back seat, build up resources, and react to what their opponent is doing, sort of looking for an opportunity for where either their opponent drops their guard or they can make their opponent drop their guard with particularly good usage of their own resources. And that is kind of the hallmark of Grand Archive control, is sort of recovery, keeping your space, keeping your defenses up, and taking advantage of your opponent's mistakes.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, Giant Pilot combo, because there's a Giant Pilot Sarium.
We love Sarium.
We do love Sarium.
We love big combo Sarium.
Big combo Sarium.
It's great.
Yeah, these are the decks that they just send. So there is 16 Saria decks here. There are 3 different Wake Up decks, one on No Champ, one on Tristan, one on Diana, and 2 Arasana Razorgale decks.
Yeah, lovely. Fantastic. Cool. Well, we should probably talk about some of the neat stuff.
Yeah, I mean, given the long tail of decks that we have in day 2, some of them are pretty neat.
I will apologize in advance. I could not talk about every single deck. There's
a million people.
We have to sleep at some point, so we're just going to go through a few good ones, and we will start off with 56th place, Bry on Wind Shadow Strike Tristan. Bry, local hero to our meta. And,
definitely a personal pick.
Yeah, I mean, Bry has been sort of shifting around from deck to deck recently. I know he's been on Slimes, he's been on Oblation, and but I always knew him as a Tristan player, and he's back on it this time. And he is the top ranking Tristan in this event.
Heck yeah.
Which is pretty cool. So, a lot of classic tricks that you see here. There's not much that I can really say about this list that I feel like hasn't been said already. A lot of the tricks really haven't changed. You just get a few more tools in the terms of Ayla, being Ayla and doing Ayla things. Very good.
Very good.
Very good. So, grats to Bry. In 44th place, we have Jimmy Huang. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I always feel self-conscious. But it's on Wind Wake Up Diana. This is a lot of what you expect to see out of a Wind Wake Up deck, but it's running Diana level 1, Ether Dilettante. Why? I don't know. You get some cool stuff. You can get True Sight out of your Concealed Marksman, your 1 Concealed Marksman. You get a couple extra lines with distance because you are running Inert Sword and Palvor Sword already for Big Cheshire Cat Beatdown. So that gives you a little bit of an extra angle to do some big damage. And otherwise, it's kind of the Wake Up deck you all know and love and fear for your lives when you sit down across from it. So
yeah, it really does feel like the choice of champion is mostly irrelevant.
Sometimes maybe you just want to stand your girl.
Yeah, sometimes you want to be 19.
Exactly. So that's pretty cool. 41st place, we have Jaron on Fire Crux Lorraine. This is a well-accomplished Fire Crux Lorraine player. You've definitely seen Jaron run this list a few times. The cool thing I like about this list is that it runs Undeniable Truth to get a little extra value out of its allies should it need to sacrifice them. And also, it can recoup the prep counters from Undeniable Truth to play Planted Explosives.
I love Undeniable Truth. I'm not going to lie. As a Slimes player, I think Undeniable Truth is better for that deck than Cremate.
Oh, it's a phenomenal card.
It's amazing.
It does so much work. I'm a huge fan of it. And I think as long as you are cremating your allies, this card is going to be good. You'll probably be cremating more allies in the future. In 24th place, we have Joseph on Water Unique Allies CL. Obviously, he's one of the 2 Water Unique Allies players who made it to day 2. And we have a good mix of offensive and defensive tricks. Most notably, he's adopted the Portly Raccoons, which, in addition to harassing your graveyard, is a 2/3 and does a lot of good damage. And then you also see a bunch of good things like Aquifer Seneschals, which he protect, but he also attack. That's pretty neat. And then you got 3 Heavy Swings. Love Heavy Swings, right? Yeah. So pretty cool.
I wonder. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. The real reason to include Portly Raccoon in this deck is because Joseph is now the number 1 wielder of Portly Raccoon.
That's true. So that's your goalpost Raccoon players. Get on this man's level.
Shoutouts to Fractal of Insight stats.
Yep. In 23rd place, we have Aqua on Arasana.
Heck yeah.
He said he wouldn't do it. He said he couldn't play Arasana. He's playing Arasana.
See, this is exactly what I was talking about when I was saying that people are back on the decks they love.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
There are quite a few players in SEA that are known for their love of Arasana, and I am sure that is mostly platonic.
He even, absolutely. Well, I will also even say, like, his love was so infectious that not only is Aqua playing Arasana, Pro-An is playing Arasana. Pro-An notably being one of the most patient players I've seen on this deck, too. So it's great to see him on this list as well.
Also, Zetdivix and Limbo, both card for card, same list as Aqua.
I mean, I would be surprised if Limbo wasn't playing Arasana. That's just a classic right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's great to see. I'm glad to see it.
This is the nature is healing moment.
Yeah.
Like this is like, okay, people have kind of figured it out and they've gone back to, you know, their old standbys and they're doing well with them. That's the important part. It's not that, you know, Aqua brought Arasana and got like 300th place, right? Aqua bought Arasana and got 23rd place.
Yeah. And that's a great sign. Now, on the other hand, if you want to just see some real violence, look no further than 20th place. We have Hachiko on Oblation. You know, we saw Limelight sort of take down OCE Nats with a grand total of 7 bricks. Hachiko's like, we can compromise.
Yeah.
10 bricks.
Down from 12.
Down from 12, which I think that's been the trend for a while. I think he only did 12 one time. And while I really liked it, I think the rest of the world was like, that's too much.
Yeah,
so,
it's kind of silly.
So we're seeing 10 bricks, which it looks like it's still good enough. That's right. So good to see this deck still coming in strong, coming in hot. This sort of feels like a more pure Oblation because it's really just focused on like shoving those things into omens and then just doing big damage. And just
no blackjack in this deck, notably. Which seems to be kind of the more popular latest technology.
Yeah. I think he cut it in favor of more bricks.
Oh,
Yeah. Which sometimes that's how it works. So very cool. In 16th place, we have Polar Cub on Seiryu. This is not only a Seiryu list, but it is a Seiryu list running raccoons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So notably, when you put the raccoon package in, you have to cut out some of the other engine pieces, which means this deck's going a little bit down on some of the other win cards. Notably, only 3 windmill engineers, which sometimes I think feels like sacrilege. But the payoff for these means you can mitigate graveyards pretty hard.
Yeah, I would need to give this deck a couple of shuffles and try it out. I do appreciate the extra utility.
Yeah.
But since Windex are so full of utility, going down on your kind of standard plays like Windmill Engineer feels like it's might be dangerous.
I will say, at my locals, I was experimenting with a 12 raccoon Seiryu list, which is literally twice as many.
Yeah.
When it works, it's so obnoxious. But there are a lot of times where you're like, I don't need this many raccoons. Like they just, I could use some other utility cards.
Yeah. So, and, you know, Windex like famous for their utility.
Yeah.
So it just feels a little weird to kind of downplay the utility a bit. Your mileage may vary, though.
Yeah.
I feel one of the things that I have noticed is you take 2 different players, you give them the same deck, and you'll notice distinctly different performances on that deck from those 2 players. And some of that is skill, and some of that is just, you know, some players have luck stats, like, honestly.
Yeah, like matchups are real. Matchups can definitely swing things. But if you're in need of a lot of graveyard hate, maybe consider this kind of Seiryu. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to call out the giant chunk of Luxem here, right? There is a Gazelle. There's 2 of the Fate Stones of Heaven.
Yeah, this deck still wants to turbo up. It's running full Beseeches, 3 each of Harness and Seiryu's Command and 4 Byaku's commands. Like it's not stalling. It's just going.
Yeah, and I do appreciate the Ayala Fate Stone of Heaven kind of combo there. So I think the presence of Ayala gives it a little bit more of a top end than you might expect from a otherwise turbo-y dragon deck.
For sure. In 14th place, we have Zabao on Fire Slime Sylvie. This is the highest performing Fire Slime Sylvie of the event. And there's not really too much to talk about here that's special. It's just a big pile of gooey boys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna never say that ever again.
This is a that feels like a San Francisco deck. This is a very common list. In general, there's not that much room to flex in Fire Slimes.
Yes.
There's only so many cards you can cut, and definitely some cards that like people have cut, and I always feel like it is a mistake.
Yeah.
In this case, we're seeing Slime King as some of the flex, but also a main deck Resolute and a main deck Topsy Decree.
Yeah.
Which I think is some really, really good flex. Like Topsy Decree feels like a really good include into a field full of Water Aetherwing. You know? We're not seeing raccoons in this list, which is something that we've seen in Fire Slimes recently.
Yeah.
But I do want to call out the Chime in the sideboard. So ready for some mill decks if he runs.
Yeah, for sure. The one of Terracite is kind of surprising to me because I feel like the Terra Material deck is so powerful.
It is, yeah. The one of Terracite in the board is the kind of like, okay, well, you've dealt with all my threats long enough. I feel like that is a nod to, you know, playing against something like Windastra or playing against something like Genbu, where it's like, okay, we've made the game go long enough, and I am sitting behind this Luxor Slime, and at some point I need to find an advantage.
Yes.
And this is how I do it.
Just give me something. So that's neat. And then in ninth place, we have 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
Wait, how many zeros are in Zero's name?
11 if you count the first one.
Oh, okay. So it's 0, 10, 0.
0, 10, 0.
All right.
On Fire Suzaku. This is a good old KFC list. There's a lot of damage in this list. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, nothing here really stands out as kind of new or innovative, but you don't really need to be innovative with Suzaku.
I mean, it's like a ratio adjustment. You sort of season to taste. The one of Crystallize and one of Fluffy is kind of interesting in here. Taking a nod towards the sort of defense and thinking that Restorative Flame just isn't quite enough to really like stave it off. You need like a little bit of extra mitigation there, I think. That's kind of an interesting pick.
Yeah, I do like the extra punch, though. I mean, I'm a fan of what Avatar of Suzaku has done for the deck.
Oh, yeah. No, I love Avatar Suzaku.
I do like seeing just how powerful this deck gets when you let it run.
Avatar Suzaku, notably the Arthur of this deck, you just slam it down turn 1. If they cannot deal with it, they are just taking 4 every turn.
Pretty good.
Pretty nice. It's more common than you think. Anyway, big grats to seeing that deck. We have a good aggro deck to hold us down for the future. So let's talk about the top 8.
All right. Yeah, let's head to the top 8.
So we may spend a little bit less time on the Aether Ring decks just because the Aether Ring decks were kind of not the primary focus sort of in the stream matches here. And also because you've heard.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot has changed with how Aetherwing is making its way to the top.
Yeah. But, we'll call it the interesting stuff as we can. For the first thing, though, we got to talk about 8th place. We got to talk about Raypig on Wind Seiryu. This is definitely a more turbo-focused Seiryu. You kind of got the full suite of Harness Lightning, Suzaku's Command, Harness Lightning, Seiryu's Command, Byaku's Command, and a good chunk of Advanced Element cards to sort of see you through the top. And you're going to get there really fast, and you're going to just use that whole package to just bully him into the ground. Yeah,
the full 4 Auspicious Manifestation, 1 Regal, 2 Imperial Countermeasures.
Yeah.
So really kind of all in on the Exalted as well as Luxem and Arcane effects.
Countermeasure is such a house. It's so good. Monster. Protect your dragon, protect your allies, protect your face. It's wonderful. We also have a Lightweaver's Assault, a lone one of Lightweaver's Assault just chilling here. I am really curious to know how often this gets played. Or if it's because I don't think you're revealing it with any sort of consistency with only 1 Fate Stone of Heaven.
Not that revealing it would even do anything, given that it's on class bonus.
I know, okay, well, there you go. So, it's just there to do a little bit of a finisher, big finisher. I don't really know if you draw cards fast enough to do that. But I'd be curious to know.
You can play this deck in sort of a more defensive way if you want to.
Yeah.
And this deck has, like, looking at this list, it's got a decent chunk of those elements in it. If you draw kind of the more influence neutral elements of it, if you draw the more defensive half of the deck,
that's true.
Then that might put you in the right position to take advantage of a Lightweaver's Assault.
Yeah, you can definitely still play an influence game, even though your deck is slanted towards the turbo. Right?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely. And if you end up in a situation where somebody has, the vapors or whatever, then maybe this is your win condition at that point.
Indeed. To all you Dragon players out there, what do you think about Lightweavers in the Seiryu list? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, in 7th place, we have Justin LJW on Water Aetherwing Diana. Fun fact, Justin LJW is my favorite member of the Apex Guild. Very cool dude. I played against him at NA Nats 2025. Really, really cool guy. Really funny guy. Highly recommend any chance to play against him. Very cool. But he's running a solid Water Aetherwing list. Nothing too crazy here. There's a bit more of an emphasis on defensive maneuvers, so you have a little bit more in terms of the Frozen Dismissal, the 3rd copy Frozen Dismissal, and 2 copies of Drown in Ether now on the main board. So you have a little bit of ways to shut things down.
I did see the main board Drown in Ether. That was an interesting choice.
Yeah, and then you got the classics. You got the Snow White in the board. You've got a Glacial Evocation to deal with problematic allies who might be swinging at you, overlapping visages because dragons be dragons. So very cool. Shout outs to Justin LJW. Love seeing you in the top cut. Please continue to push it into the gauntlet. In 6th place, we have Professor on Wing Crux Lorraine. Not the only Windcrux deck we're going to be talking about, but definitely its own flavor. Notably, a big concentration of advanced element, exalted off element allies.
Absolutely. There is a lot of advanced in this deck.
Yeah.
And only 2 angelic channeling.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to be running angelic channeling at all, you want the full complement. Like it's kind of an all or nothing card, in my opinion.
I kind of feel that way. On the other hand, this is a deck running Rally the Peasants, and that's a really good influence neutral way with all the allies here. I think the off element cards are definitely a conscious choice because you can fetch those with Rally the Peasants, meaning this is definitely going to be a neutral play most of the time. Yeah. Then you got a lone retribution, which can be buffed in many ways, including getting those cards banished.
Yeah. And the full complement of Cruxites. I usually see Cruxites going down to 3 of.
Yeah,
So definitely made some cuts in order to give this deck the consistency that it has. You know, this is the kind of list that you see people running like 61 cards, 62 cards, full of 2 ofs and 1 ofs. And the only real nod there is there's a 2 of Turbocharge.
I definitely feel like
2 of Angelic Channeling. And the entire rest of the list is 4 ofs. Like, this deck knows what it's about.
I feel like this is kind of the level of coziness that I would probably go for if I was trying to play this list. Obviously, this is not the best version of this list necessarily, but it is one that I feels like it knows what it wants to do, and it's a pretty good starting point for really getting into this archetype.
Yeah, I do like this list, although I think if I were to play this list, I would feel like I'm missing out on the Calming Breezes.
Oh, the Calming Breezes, yeah, the Calming Breezes can be pretty good. It's a little tough for the early game. Well, especially with the some of the changes that we're going to talk about after this, that might be more warranted. So,
True.
But congrats, Professor. You did it. You took everyone to school. It was awesome. Anyway, in 5th place.
Don't doubt yourself.
Okay,
Your jokes are fine.
All right, okay.
Just because I'm not laughing doesn't mean other people.
That doesn't mean that you out there aren't laughing. Please laugh. Please laugh. Anyway, in 5th place, we have Enoch Lock 1, 2, 3 on Water Genbu. It's Genbu. What can I say? Solid Genbu list.
Yeah, not a whole lot changing here, although that's a lot of Spalling Cleanses.
It is. I like seeing Pelagic Face Stone in here as a float option. I think that's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of seeing those. Spalling Cleanse is definitely good for stabilizing here. That much is for certain. Otherwise, nothing too crazy to talk about. I feel like a lot of the Genbu staples here make a lot of sense, and you see pretty commonly. I will say there's a Tithe Proclamation, though, in the material deck. That's a little shocking. But I think that's a good nod towards the influence builders.
Yeah,
you know, I think that's
don't want to let them go too ham.
Yeah, you gotta rein them in at some point. So very cool. Congrats to Enoch. In 4th place, we have the real Liftersill on Windcrux Lorraine. I will say, in spite of everything we said about the last Windcrux deck, this deck was so freaking cool to watch. Really, it's just cool to see Liftersill play because Liftersill can just come up with some lines that I think a lot of people don't really think about. So notably, he's not running Rally the Peasants here. His choice of advanced element card is actually 2 Condemning Eviscerations, a water element attack. This is still good if you're not running Rally the Peasants because when this card gets banished, the attack stats will still get added to Retribution. So that's pretty cool. Liftersill really focusing and emphasizing the influence generation from Spirit Blade Ascension. And you know, that kind of checks out with the decks that I think he's known to play.
Yeah, Liftersill kind of stylistically has always been the kind of person who wants to sit there with a 15-card hand.
Yep.
And, you know, the presence of a lot of 2 ofs and 1 ofs in his deck makes a lot more sense given that kind of play style and given that kind of predilection.
Yep.
So, you know, if you're always drawing like a third of your deck, then most of the time you're going to have almost anything that you need.
Yeah. Also, 3 Imperious Galebinds is pretty wild. Fun fact, if you suppress an ally, it is banished, and it still adds on to your damage count for Spirit Blade Retribution, which we saw a few times on stream. Because he was just trying to finish out the game with just big ults. So that was really sweet. So this was really damn cool to watch. He definitely also acknowledges that Graveyard Mitigation is a thing. So he has Cleansing Reunions and Psychopomp Scales in the board.
That is, I would say that's overkill, but maybe that's just the right amount of kill.
I also got to say, we're seeing a lot of Annul Spell in the sideboards these days. And this is a card that has definitely been proving itself more and more, I think, as these like spell-heavy strategies continue to rock out really hard. Pretty cool to see that as well.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
if you need to figure out what you're trying to put in your sideboard, consider Annul Spell. It's a pretty good card. Anyway, shout out to Liftersill. Really freaking awesome deck and an awesome performance, and just showing us just the what is it? The skill ceiling that you can really get to with
100%.
this deck. In third place, we have Mike0615 on Water Aetherwing Diana. A little weird not to see him on Tristan, but you can't argue with the fact that this deck has been doing very, very well. A little bit of a different ratio than the deck we looked at from Justin, but a lot of the classic staples are here. So not too much to say here in terms of what to deal with.
I think that there is very little to say about this deck that we cannot also say about second place.
It's true, which we will talk about right now. Raylam, card for card the same deck. Minus one card, and that is Minth, Spirit of Water. Cool flex, bro.
Yep.
Love it. I mean, there's a reason why this deck is doing so well and why a lot of top players are on it. This deck just continues to push out crazy amounts of damage. That damage, however, was not quite enough in the face of the first place finisher. We have Dragon JG on Water Umbra Mill Alice. So this was the surprise of the weekend.
Sure was.
And boy, I was really hoping we'd see another surprise deck show up, but I did not expect it to be this one.
Yeah. I do remember seeing this on stream doing well, and thinking, oh, a finger on the monkey's paw has curled.
It's going to be very terrifying to play against this. I think a lot of people will probably try. But just to give you guys a bit of a background, so Dragon JG is a player that I heard about a long time ago, because I think he's been playing at least since Mercurial Heart season. And he was notably topping events with Lucent Arbiter Arasana. That's not the Star Call Arasana, that is the Negate Arasana. And notably, I was so excited that someone was playing this version of Arasana that I sleeved his deck up and played it at locals, and I realized there are like 5 million things that you need to be keeping track of. Not only with your own deck and how it works, but with all of your opponent's decks and how they work. Because notably, Lucent Arbiter lets you negate one thing per turn cycle. But because it's only one thing per turn cycle and it costs a lot of reserve to do that, you have to be very aware of what your opponent wants to play and what you need to negate. Which is all to say that Dragon JG is no stranger to running decks that require a lot of mental fortitude and require tracking a lot of different variables. So this was really on display when you saw just how thoughtful he was when playing this deck. Not only just minding like the cards in his hand and what he could play, but also just being constantly aware of like the cards in his opponent's graveyards, banishes, just like what they could possibly play against him, like what was left to deal with, and just being able to respond accordingly, just making these educated guesses. So like there was a lot of thought put into just playing this deck, which, by the way, this deck, the whole goal is just, it's never going to die. And it's going to be really painful to deal with. Notably, the thing we got to talk about, because there are a lot of pieces that this shares with Watergen in terms of the like Norman water cards, but Fount Seraphim. This is a card that really wrecks a lot of the Water Diana players, because it's a big 4 health taunt and you can slam it down. And it basically says allies are going to enter the field rested.
Yeah, this really hurts when your opponent is trying to be aggressive with Crystalline Archers.
Yep, it's just really tough at that point. And they're going to spend so many extra turns just trying to deal with this. And you have all the means to sort of shut them down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's really tough. And in the meantime, you're healing with Benediction Angels. You're healing with Pearl Prayers. You're healing with all of Alice's crazy Umbra healing tricks. You have Abnegation in this list, by the way. That's really terrifying.
It really is.
And you're also just able to recur stuff that you mill into the yard with Reflected Blight. So you're kind of sort of... this kind of felt like a fishing deck. You're basically just... You're waiting. You're waiting for a fish to show up in the pond so that you can cast your line and reel it in. And that's what Reflected Blight does.
That's what the Phantasmagoria is all about.
Yeah.
Like the way that Umbra Alice works.
Alice just should have been a fishing character. I'm telling you, that would have been great.
No ghosts.
No ghosts, just fish. The really spicy one, too, is also the 2 copies of Umbral Tithe, which is a great way to accelerate the mill plan, because this forces your opponent to draw 2 cards into memory. This is a great potential finisher.
Yeah, it is a main deck Bauble of Abundance.
Yep, and which, by the way, this deck is also running Bauble of Abundance. Right. So it will just knock you out the moment it gets you down to 0 cards. Although sometimes this was just used to draw cards. Sometimes he just needed the out. He just needed a way to sort of build his influence. Also the Ducal Seal and the Terrafringer here to just block out any aggressive presence, which did a ton of great work. So, and then you have Engulfs just to shut down anything and everything that they're going to send at you.
One thing I do want to call out, which is a little bit of a time-saving tip if you're going to play a deck like this one or Water Exia Djinn. In addition to it being useful to keep track of what your opponent has by looking through their banish and their graveyard, you can kind of negatively count their deck.
Yes.
By saying, oh, you have 3 cards in banish, 7 cards in your graveyard, 5 cards are on the field, 8 cards in your hand. So that's 23 cards, which means you have 37 cards left in your deck.
Yes, or 38 in case you expect a lot of 61 card playing decks.
Or 39 if you're against Lifterzill.
Be forewarned. Yeah, we didn't call that out, but there were a number of people in this event running 62 card decks, and it was
heinous.
Just, I don't know. I don't like where the world is going these days.
But it is a way to kind of keep track of roughly how many cards your opponent has left without directly asking them and giving the game away.
Yep.
And also gives you some practice at looking at what they're working with, what's on the field, what's in their yard, how many copies of a card they might still have left.
True.
Is also an important factor on a strategic level when you're playing a deck like this. So you can usually get that information.
Yeah. So definitely keep that in mind for sure. This is really cool. In spite of the fact that I'm terrified to play with this against this at my locals, which we already have at least one player at my locals who was cooking this deck before it became mainstream.
Yep.
I think it'll be terrifying, but I think it is a good sign to know that if you want to play something closer to hard control in Grand Archive, there are ways to do it.
Absolutely.
I think the tools are definitely there. Shouts to Engulf. Very, very powerful water card.
Heck yeah.
So just, be prepared. Sometimes if you want to deal with this deck, you might just have to be able to one-hit KO them to sort of mitigate all that healing that they're going to try and throw against you. But
man, I hadn't actually thought about it, but this is actually blue-white control. They're running Counterspell. They're running Kismet.
Yeah.
This is wild.
Yeah. It's like we never left. But anyway, shout out to Dragon JG, unleashing one of the most terrifying archetypes onto the world. And I am both terrified and excited to see how the metagame will evolve after both the unveiling of this deck and also the unveiling of the most recent banned and restricted update that we got right after this event.
Yeah, so now that the event is over, we have a winner of this event.
Yep.
Let's immediately eviscerate this metagame.
Yes. Let's take the most popular deck in the format and just yeet it out of this space.
I do think, okay, so I guess let's be explicit about what we're talking about here.
Ranger Strides.
The ban and restricted changes that came out immediately after this event was over as part of the dev stream post-event included the removal of Ranger Strides, which is a big factor in the extra aggression of all of these Looking Glass-focused Ranger decks. Any deck that wants to go distant would be running Cheshire Cat and Ranger Strides as a way to get an additional 4, 8, maybe even 12 damage on a single attack.
The spike damage on Ranger Strides has been so iconic, I think, of just many, many things in the metagame as of late. So, and it's also just been sort of our main contender is the go-to aggro list. Right. So with this coming out, I think it's interesting to sort of see how the speed of the format will sort of adapt.
So we should also say there are a few other changes in the BNR.
Yes.
There was a couple of changes to Proxy's Vault.
Yes.
Not that I think any of these will have a drastic effect on the metagame.
Maybe one.
Clarent got nerfed a bit. And I think that has an effect against Oblation. But I think it doesn't have much of an effect against the rest of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was a card that was originally brought in to deal with sort of the fractal dominance happening at the time. So, but I do think it sort of contributes a lot to sort of win Crux's ability to sort of survive up to that endgame state. So I will kind of be interested to see if this is enough or if more changes will sort of be required in the future.
Sure.
In either case, I think this Win Crux is definitely still going to be played.
Oh, yeah.
It's just going to have a little bit of a tougher time against more spell-focused decks, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
We did get a rework to Reciprocity, Dormage's Call, the much maligned Tony Sword. Which,
I hope people can find a way to use this card. I am not convinced it's going to make much of an effect on the metagame.
I think Tony needs to become a lot more popular in general.
Yeah.
While I don't know if this will do it, I do think that if you are playing Tony in that sort of endgame Neos package, I think this does what you want it to do.
If you are playing Tony and you were using Reciprocity, you're going to be thrilled with the changes that they made to it. Yeah. But I don't think this is going to put Tony on the map in a way that it wasn't already.
Yeah, yeah.
And the same goes true with Rye's proxy.
Yeah, we got a new Rye card. It's Endure Reimagined. I guess I'll lay it down here for people who want to know. Yep. This is a 0 cost Regalia, a Mage Scepter. It has a Rye bonus on enter. You may banish a card named Endura, Scepter of Ignition from your Material deck, similar to Clarent. If you do, put 2 Enlightened Counters on your champion. It also has a Rye bonus. Remove 3 Enlightened Counters from your champion. Rest it, and as a spell, deal 2 damage to up to 1 target unit and draw a card.
Yep.
So that's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It gives you a little bit of extra utility on your Enlightenment counters, getting that extra damage. So this is something that is potentially useful against the occasional troublesome ally, since Rye typically doesn't really have good ways to deal with allies. But most of the things that this is going to do is a little bit of chip damage to your opponent as you use your Enlightenment counters to draw a card like you normally would.
I'll give you my take, and Hyoka beat me to the punch. He has a video on his channel which he goes a bit more deeper about his thoughts on this card as the Rye aficionado of this format of this game, even, which is this is a Mana Weaver card. Notably, if you count the Enlightenment counters, you get level 1, and then the Enlightenment counters from this, assuming you banish Endura, you have 4 Enlightenment counters, which is enough to do 1 copy instance of Rye Mana Weaver. So you can copy something big. That could be an Arcane Blast, an Arcane Disposition, something like that. So that could be really fun. That's a nice way to guarantee that. Will that lead to different decks? It kind of depends. We'll have to see what Mana Weaver can do competitively if someone cooks up something really interesting. If you don't want that, though, this utility, 2 damage up to 1 target unit is enough to bonk Blanche. If you're worried about getting your spell damage mitigated, this is a nice way to deal with that. It also pokes shields, but we did have Shattering Discharge for that already, which is unpreventable. So I can't really say if that's going to be necessarily there. So we'll kind of just sort of wait and see. This does also open up a room for using Discover the Divine, which says you can spend 4 Enlightened counters to level up. I don't know if that card is necessarily that good in the first place, but again, depends on the chefs in the kitchen.
Absolutely.
Which I'm excited to see cook some crazy stuff. So, but yeah, takeaways.
So yeah, this is of course a major change.
This is a big one.
This is the most popular deck in the format, as well as really the only aggro deck that people are playing in the format.
Yeah.
Getting a major nerf.
Yes.
I don't think this kills the deck. However, I think most people are not going to want to play it anymore.
I think so.
What we've seen in the past is anytime there's this kind of ban, even if the deck is still viable, even if the deck still has legs, most people are going to shift off the deck. The public perception is the deck is dead.
I think a lot of people will try to see if there are like 1-for-1 substitutions in this deck to see if they can still make it punch as hard as it did, and it probably won't work.
No, almost assuredly not.
Yeah.
Like this really is kind of an irreplaceable card. I think for Water Aetherwing to still be an aggressive deck, there's going to be some changes that need to be made to how it runs. Water Aetherwing could shift gears as a result of this and maybe focus a little bit more on kind of the tempo plays of keeping threats on the board and keeping your opponent off of their own threats. So maybe we'll see some more controlling elements in Water Aetherwing, or maybe we just see people stop trying and move on to, Fire Aggro or Suzaku or some other aggressive deck to replace the Water Aetherwing that we've been seeing.
Yeah, beyond the Water Aetherwing deck, it's like in terms of your aggressive decks, you have Fire Suzaku, which has made a decent showing here. You do see some people running Fire Aggro Assassin every so often. You sort of see Fire Aggro Xander, Fire Aggro Merlanders to a certain extent. It kind of remains to be seen if another aggro deck will sort of step up and sort of take the place of Water Aetherwing. Now, I will say, and I don't know how much actual water this holds, but a while ago, while lurking in various discords, I definitely saw people talking about if Ranger Stride gets banned and level 1 Water Aetherwing is no longer viable, why not level 3 Water Aetherwing?
It's possible that this does open the field kind of in the same vein of a more mid-rangey Aetherwing deck that has some bigger top end rather than relying on this kind of spiky aggressive strategy.
Exactly. You might be asking, but Ken, they don't have Ranger Strides anymore, and that's an Astra card. Bro, you have Ranger Strides in your deck that you can Starcall, and it goes back into your deck. You don't need that. Run the other shoes.
There you go.
Run Quick Step, and you'll be fine. Is this how things are going to go? I don't know. That deck has a few issues as well, but maybe that's kind of where they want it to be, right? Like a big high risk, high reward payoff that can be interacted with, because if you don't interact with it, you will just die.
Yeah.
So
I could see that.
Yeah. I would be really excited to see that. We'll kind of have to see where people go with it. We also just might end up getting just a lot of control versus control matchups. With the Seiryu decks sort of being the like, hey, I'm gonna break through this wall by going so far over the top. Right. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? We do not see the future. But
so I suspect kind of the naive take at this point is that with Water Aetherwing as a less popular deck, we're going to see an overall less aggressive pool of decks at the next big event.
I think that is a very likely outcome, and time will tell if we are correct on that.
Like you were saying, there are definitely other aggro decks that exist in the field, and some number of Water Aetherwing players will be like, all right, well, if I can't play this aggressive deck, I'll pick this other aggressive deck that is still pretty good.
Yeah.
But also a decent chunk of Water Aetherwing players are going to be like, well, this isn't the best deck in the format anymore. I'm going to switch to what I perceive as the best deck in the format.
We have a new best deck in the format. Will that be? We have yet to see.
Probably Windcrux.
Windcrux, yeah.
I think Windcrux is the flavor of the month.
I think a lot of people like that deck. We'll have to see.
Yeah. So, it's the meta's in flux at the moment. There's not necessarily as much data as we'd like about what it's going to look like post-ban. So this is a good time to try and flex your chops, see if you can make some predictions and take advantage of sort of the flux that's coming up.
I mean, we're all waiting for Worlds to sort of come out. So until then, just try something new.
Yeah.
You're going to definitely need something new if you're, perhaps playing in that 3v3 that's going down and, and sort of the side, as the Ascent. So who knows?
We do love Ascent Worlds.
We do love Ascent Worlds. There's a lot of fun stuff that comes out that people like to pull out there. So that's really cool. But we shall see. Anyway, that will do it for us for CNATS and the entire Nationals 2026 season as a whole, which means we now get to talk about fun stuff in the Endphase, namely new spoilers.
Oh, yeah.
We got the dev stream at the end of Nationals. I stayed up way too late to watch the majority of it. And then I got home and found out there was more of it. And I was like, okay, well, a lot to talk about here. So Asphodel Paradise has some cool stuff. Mainly they spoiled the new champions and sort of their starter decks. So we have the new Lorraine in Arcane. And then we have Dante in Exia as a mage. Some interesting designs there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I personally really, really like Recover synergies.
Oh, yeah.
There was some of this in Luxem for a little bit.
There was.
And it sounds like we're going to get a lot more with Dante. It really feels like Transfusive Aura was built for this, man.
Yeah, Exia Mage really feels like you're just going all in on like the lifelink sort of vampiric strategies of like just life drain constantly. And I think that'll be a really cool archetype to see. You definitely don't have the insane survival potential as Jin did.
Yeah.
But you kind of have your own version of it in the sense that your maximum health can keep building up over time.
Yeah.
Which I think is really, really
That's very cool.
Yeah. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Protecting your test specimens, I think you'll be interested. I know there's a lot of people memeing about just cremating children, which don't do that. He literally gets buffed by having children to protect on the board. Like he's just a tired dad. Like give him a break.
Oh no,
tired dad Dante. I, on the other hand, I'm very excited for another Arcane champion, and
static counters look really cool.
Static counters actually look really cool. I was a little like. So when I originally saw him, I was like, okay, it's just another way to like sort of push damage as you're Lorraine, you attack. But like you think a bit more about it being like, oh, so like when one of your arcane units attacks, all of your static carriers get to sort of discharge and sort of interesting things like that. And then like, oh, there's like a bunch of cards that you can send into the yard and then you can banish them as Arcane is wont to do. And then you get more static counters. And because Arcane cares about cards that banish, that sort of funnels into more static generation. And then he spoiled a really, really powerful unique ally, Picarda, Knight Rider, who is just do you want to like clock a guy for 7?
That seems.
Do you want a 3/4 for 3? What about a 3/4 for 7? That also has static counters and can just discharge static counters. So it's probably hitting for like 8 or 9 or 10 even.
I'm remembering the days of Ardent Cloud Striker.
Yes.
In Kongming Razor.
Would you like Ardent Cloud Striker, but that more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I would.
I would like that as well. I think that sounds really great.
Sounds like a thing I'd like.
Yeah. I'm getting the picture of Lorraine as just being a very aggressive deck that still utilizes an advanced element. I'm going to kind of be curious to see how it plays in practice because we've only seen a chunk of starter deck cards. And those starter decks are notably sort of tuned to be much more simpler in execution.
Right.
And Picard is our first taste of like the main set where it sort of starts to seem like, okay, now you're sort of getting a way to spend your arcane counters for other things that are not just damage, but also like, oh God, the damage, right? Like huge payouts. So I'm really excited to see what happens there.
Yeah.
There's also some other interesting cards involving ally links and synergies that you see in the main set, which are like kind of probably not things you'll want to see in constructed play, but I think for the draft experience, they'll be really fun.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, overall, I'm reserving judgment until I get a pack in my hands.
Yep, I agree. There's a lot of time before the spoiler season even starts. This is just sort of a nice little taste. And so we're sort of just taking what we've seen just in whatever context we can make it. So one thing that I'll say is at the time of this recording, Anime Expo is currently happening. There is a big Grand Archive demo section going on down there, and they are apparently demoing with new demo decks, because my experience is basically just teaching people through sort of basic element Lorraine mirrors. And I think having sort of more of a taste of the advanced element is really cool. Yeah. So I'm excited to see that. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff there. Yeah. So,
which I think is a probably good point to call it for the night.
I think so. Right. You know, so we don't really have a lot to talk about until Worlds, which is going to be in over a month from now.
Yeah, we've got some time.
So what should we talk about?
I think we should do another filler episode. There is definitely room for another mailbag episode. That was pretty well received the last time. So if you have any questions for us, if you want to know about the podcast, if you want to know about our history with Grand Archive, if you want to know what my favorite food is, I don't know why you'd want to know that, but if you want to know, I'm willing to answer that question.
I want to know what that is.
You'll have to write it in an email.
I'm going to be writing in. If you have topics that you want us to talk about in great detail, also, you know, that could be good for future episodes as well. Maybe we'll do a little sneaky filler episode if we get enough requests for a certain topic.
Absolutely.
Something to think about. But until then, we have a lot to be excited for, I'd say. So...
But yeah, thank you for listening, and drop us a comment on what you liked, what you didn't like. Let us know when you laughed at Ken's jokes, because he desperately wants you to have laughed at his jokes.
I desperately need approval. It's a real thing. I'm getting therapy. But until that session, thank you for listening to Corhazi Outlook. Please look forward to our next episode, where we'll probably have a mailbag.
Probably.
We certainly won't just be talking about Worlds immediately afterwards. What will it be? Which one will it be? Who knows? You'll have to wait and see. But until then, take care.
Take care.